our friend, who is going to try to become a friend of all of the folks in District 11 and in this country by taking that seat in Congress and vowing to work for those people. In addition to that, we're also here, of course, to talk about foster care, the foster care crisis and solutions and hope. And there's going to be a panel discussion among our guests who are at the table. I am not going to introduce those guests. What I'm going to do is introduce Catherine Kirsanow, who is an attorney and the chair of Restore Cleveland Hope. And she's going to moderate this panel discussion about foster care in Greater Cleveland and beyond. And so, Catherine, you have your own microphone, so I'll turn it over to Catherine Kirsanow.
Well, my name is Catherine Kirsanow, and I am the chair of an organization called Restore Cleveland Hope. The mission of Restore Cleveland Hope is to celebrate Cleveland's anti-slavery past through the preservation and renovation of one of our most historic houses in the Cleveland area, the Cozad Bates House in University Circle at 115th and Mayfield. I would invite anyone in that area to take a look at the house. You can't miss it. It's the only pre-Civil War house in the neighborhood, and we're restoring that as an education center about the freedom seekers and their helpers in America, a time when people really came together in real search of liberty. I think it's because of that property development experience at the Cozad Bates House and some other projects that I was asked to create or develop housing for a new group of people, a group of young people emancipating from foster care. And when I did the research on that group and their needs, I found a huge hole in our social safety net, if you will. So I'm very grateful that Dr. Goldstein has chosen to share this occasion to give attention to the plight of some of our more vulnerable citizens, youth emancipating from foster care. Beverly's receptive attitude, careful examination of the facts, and her pursuit of solutions is what we need in the United States Congress. As a general rule, a child is emancipated at the age of 18. Many parents look forward to that age, even though they know that the new adult will continue to seek parental support. True independent self-sufficiency often occurs long after 18. Young people who enter adulthood directly from the state's foster care system are expected to live independently far earlier than they are truly self-sufficient. Housing and supportive services, not very much different from what we give our own families and targeted to these young peoples without families, are needed very much. Youths who emancipate from foster care are singularly unprepared for the demands of adulthood. Compared to the general population, these young people are often without appropriate family and community supports, and consequently are at higher risk for homelessness, not completing their education, being arrested, and suffering with emotional and mental health issues very much like the post-traumatic stress syndrome suffered by some of our veterans. Approximately 1,000 youths in Ohio age out of the foster care system each year. In 2012, Attorney General Mike DeWine began to travel across the state to gather facts on the current state of the child welfare system in Ohio. Major issues and themes that arose during these child safety summits were reported in a report of findings released in 2012. It was reported that 25% of children who have aged out of foster care do not have a high school diploma or a GED. Fewer than 2% of them complete college. More than 50% experience at least one episode of homelessness. and nearly 30% are incarcerated at some point in their lives. We are fortunate to have with us tonight real experts on the issue of emancipating youths. They are Stacey Holmes, Latasha Watts, and Doreen Dunn Burtz. Each panelist will present her experience with the foster care system, and after all have given their remarks, the panel will take your questions. Our first speaker, Stacey Holmes, significantly informed my understanding of the strategies needed to address the stress of foster care affecting emancipated youths. Stacey is a native Clevelander, former foster child, and an advocate. Stacey lived her early childhood in foster care, moving from home to home, totaling 10 foster homes and 2 residential treatment centers. At age 12, Stacey was adopted and given a fresh start. Stacey attended Cleveland's Patrick Henry Middle School and graduated at the top of her class. She then went on to Collinwood High School, where she also excelled academically and athletically. With the support and love of her adopted mom, Stacey was able to attain these successes not easily, but with faith, determination, and persistence. Using her own experience, Stacey helps us understand the long-term effects of trauma and how it can shape a life.
Thank you so much. I appreciate being here. I want to thank Catherine. I want to especially thank Bev, and I really appreciate you, Bev, for inviting me out. So I'm going to share a little bit about my beginning. I have myself an outline because I am known to talk. So I'm going to stay on topic here. So I'm going to start just with a brief bio of my early childhood. So I went to foster care at age 3. I come from a family of 9. I have 6 sisters and 2 brothers. And my mother had schizophrenia, and my father was an alcoholic. So the home was, I can definitely say, dysfunctional. We were kind of raising ourselves. I experienced a lot of emotional, verbal, and sexual abuse in my biological home. And that is what kind of triggered the agency to come to the home and find out kind of what was going on in the home. So 3 of us were removed, and we were placed into a home. And I didn't do well in homes. I had a lot of anger, a lot of resentment, and didn't trust anybody. You know, I didn't know who to trust. Because if you can't trust the very people that, you know, you're supposed to love, your mother and your father, who do you trust? So I bounced around to a lot of different homes. I was just so angry. And I suffered from PTSD, OCD. So I had a few things I had to deal with at an early age. So school really wasn't a focus for me. You know, I tried to go to school and focus, but I just couldn't focus. I had a really tough time focusing. So I, you know, matriculated through about 10 homes. I ended up at Beachbrook, and I was able to get some residential treatment. So I spent a lot of time in therapy. I was in therapy for about 10 years, and I was in anger management for about 10 years. And I think therapy was probably the best thing I could have had. I was able to really get some of those feelings out and discuss those topics we kind of want to suppress. So therapy was very, very helpful. So that's really the early part of my childhood. But I do want to talk about trust is important when you're dealing with foster children. We have to be able to trust you. And I do want to point out some of the effects with trauma. You have, you know, uncontrollable thoughts, inadequacies, always have a sense of constant danger. And that kind of developed for me. You have low self-esteem. And, you know, these responses are normal reactions to abnormal events. So some of the filters, and I say filters as to how trauma has long-term effects. So sometimes I find myself hyper-focusing on something to keep those uncontrollable thoughts under control. So I can give you an example, like something popped in my head. It could be, I might feel, oh my gosh, someone might try to kill me. So I'll hyper-focus on something positive. Like, well, I'll use my faith. My faith is very important to me. So I hyper-focus on faith. So I'll get to studying, I'll write down scripture, write down principles, and apply them to my life. So that is kind of what helps me even today. And then I want to talk about strategies used to stay progressive. So for me, I do journaling. I do a lot of journaling. Running. I don't run right now, but I used to run. Basketball, only recreational when I can make it. And I still struggle with a little OCD at home. I'm constantly clean. Everything has to be clean. But to be honest with you, I'm spiritually the same way. Like I have to be in order up here in order for me to be in order in the natural. So that's kind of what I do. And then I'm going to talk about when I speak, I always have to make sure I'm not telling my story as a victim, but as a survivor. So I'm here as a survivor, not a victim of the circumstance and what happened to me. And then last, I'm going to close with hope and constant encouragement and mentorship. I think is really, it's almost imperative when you're working or even have a child in foster care and custody. It's important that you build the relationship, and it's going to take time. You're going to need a ton of patience. My adopted mom, she ended up adopting me at 12. Oh, God blessed her with so much patience because I was a wild child. I was just very angry, angry at the world because, I felt like I couldn't trust anybody. And so when she showed me that I could trust her, that's when I kind of opened it. I just let it all out. And I took the gates down and I said, okay, I will give you the opportunity to love me and I will love you back. And it ended up flourishing. I ended up starting off in special education, and then I ended up going to mainstream, and then I ended up top of the class at Patrick Henry, and then I went on through high school, and I graduated in top 20, like 3.8 GPA. So academically, I began to excel, but it's really due to my mom just giving me a chance, loving me, supporting me, being very, very patient with me, and just the faith that she instilled in me, just the importance of God, the importance of faith, the principles, how to walk them out, how to operate them. And then I just want to read Hope's definition. Hope is a feeling of expectation and a desire for a certain thing to happen. We all have it. We have to just keep watering it so it can happen. So we all have some sort of hope. I think hope is really what keeps us going. We have some sort of hope, whether it's small, whether it's large. So at the end of the day, my hope was to find a family that would love me, that would accept me, all the flaws, and we can grow together. And God was able to bless me with that. And today I'm a mom of 3, 11-year-old, 3-year-old, and 14-month-old. And I do advocacy. I go and speak. I'm also a part of iGroup Cleveland, which we deal with kind of campaigning, the RNC. And, I do other things, recreation. But for the most part, I'm a stay-at-home mom, and I enjoy it. So I get the opportunity to raise my kids, but it's a blessing that I'm even here because I know I shouldn't be. So it's a blessing that I am. So I'm trying to make the best of it and give back whenever I'm able to give back to people. And now I'm going to pass it back to Miss Catherine. Thank you.
Doreen Dunberts is an author of several books, some of which are on the table there, family-oriented books, an advocate, and a motivational speaker. Graduating from Cleveland's Glendale High School, she studied nonprofit management at Case Western Reserve. In 1994, she founded Informing Our Children. She began an athletic reading program with 11 children. The initial objective of the project was to promote the academic success of children in her community. But she soon realized that these children needed basic comprehension skills along with other fundamental life and social skills. She has worked with the Cleveland Metropolitan School District, the Cuyahoga County Juvenile Court, the Department of Children and Family Services, Cleveland Heights Girls Circle, and other organizations. She has received from President Barack Obama the President's Lifetime Achievement Award for volunteer service exceeding 9,000 hours.
Hello everyone, I am Doreen Burse, also known as Doreen Dunn Burse. My philosophy was, and I can tell you, as a child, I believed in community. I had a grandmother that was strong about community empowerment and people helping people. In our days, that was very strong, and today, even growing up, I still had that sense of concept. So in my neighborhood as a child, I would get all the kids together. I took gymnastics and I cheered in high school, and also I was a majorette. So my grandmother always said if you had a gift, you had to pass it on. So if you passed on, somebody can keep carrying that baton, and I strongly believe in that. So I taught all the kids gymnastics. I taught everybody how to twirl a baton, and I didn't care if there was a boy, he was going to learn, because that was my concept. But as I got older and started working and going into the employment field and having my own children, buying my own homes and doing the things that we do as we get older, I realized being at the police department, I work for the Cleveland Police Department, and my spark started with a young man who came to my window who had court. And him having court, I read his papers, and he was definitely in the wrong place. Juvenile court and Cleveland Police Department are two different concepts. So I read the paper to him and realized and recognized this boy is 17 and can't read. He cannot read what the order was, and his mother was not with him. So I called over, and I remember talking to Judge Sikora. And I told Judge Sikora bailiff that I had a young man at the police department who has court today, and he's in the wrong place. He needs some help. And so the bailiff was indicating that, they'll put a warrant out and all this stuff. I said, no, I'm about to go on lunch. I'm about to bring him to you. So I went over to the juvenile court with this young man and took him over there, and actually he was my first advocacy to say he doesn't have a voice because he don't understand, but as a mother I understand, and I need to help him understand how to channel this system, him and his mother. And from there I never stopped. I just kept going. Even my sons would play basketball, and I started backyard basketball, and they had rules. They had to argue with a smile, and that worked out good because they didn't want to stop playing basketball. So they argued with a smile. But then I realized a lot of kids was bringing their siblings with them to actually do sports. Why are you babysitting? So rather than make the young man or young women feel bad that were playing the backyard basketball, I started doing a front porch reading program because I always thought about this young man who could not read. And at 2-year-old and 3-year-olds, I had kids reading and talking. They could all read their parents. But then we realized kids need so much structure at home to help them. So when you tap into children, you have tapped into a home. So I started tapping into homes, working with their parents, doing different things, and that made the difference. My first foster care experience was one of my youth that I caught out late at night. And I said, where are you out late? You have a curfew. I ain't gonna be at home. Nobody care. And I let her know, well, somebody does care because you're in my program and you're not allowed to be out this late. I took her home to her mother. She's like, well, she's always disappearing. And I found out she was a foster child. And I'm like, how could she stay out this late being in foster care under your care? And I told her that's not acceptable. The next time it happened, I was going to report her. But this time we was going to sit down. We were going to have a conversation on how you can help this child do better because she's in your house. And from there, this young lady knew, be in the house or I'm going to be at your house. You had a choice. You could come in the house on your own, I was coming to get you. So the whole thing is, with advocacy, I work with mothers who are losing custody of children to help them go through the system where they're not alone. I'm trying to prevent children from becoming foster children if they don't have to become foster children. And those that have to become foster children, our advocacy is to make sure we place them somewhere good so they can grow and develop and understand what the process they're about to go through. And so that's basically what our advocacy does, is to help you identify and understand that this is a system, but you can't get through it. There's some changes that you can make within yourself, your structure. I had a young man, I went to the house to visit another kid, because when I advocate, I visit my kids. I want to see if you're taking care of my kids. And so he just was having a fit, and I said, what's wrong? And he was like, she'll never let me do nothing, and he's complaining and talking. I said, so what do you want to do? He was like, I want to play football. She won't let me play football. And so we talked about him playing football. I said, so if you play football and you keep your grades up, you will be able to play football. She's saying your grades are not good. You got to get your grades up to play football. We're not going to say you're going to play football with straight D's. That's damage. You're going to have to get them D's up. And then when I come back, I'll advocate to talk to her about you playing football. But I can't advocate with you having straight D's. So that young man worked to get them D's up. He was happy. He said, I got straight C's now. What we going to do? And I said, that's good. You can start playing football with straight C's. Now we got to help you move to the next level. And this boy ended up being an A student, played football, went to college. It's just all about, we have to give people some hope to know that people believe in you. It's not a dead end because you're in foster care. There's hope. Everybody go through something to become somebody. And we have to recognize that. But also with our systems, we have to recognize that children need help and nobody's the same. Some kids are isolated. They go inward. So when a child is inward, it takes time to get them outward. Everything has a time frame. And my last I want to say is, I advocated for a family of 11. She was a drug addict. She had lost custody. And her kids have been gone 6 months when I met her. And the interesting part is her social worker called me to talk to her, to advocate for her. Because I tell people, I'm Miss Reality. I'm going to wake you up. And so in my advocacy with her, she ended up getting pregnant. And so she thought this baby was coming home, and this worker had her excited, and she was saying, I'm going to bring the baby home. And I told her, you know what, let me sit you down, because I'm going to give you a real smack. Reality is, and I want you to think about it, why would I let you bring a baby home and you got 10, 11-year-old that's not even at your house? So quit dreaming of what this worker is telling you, and I want you to wake up, because I don't want you to relapse, because this is reality. So you're going to sit at that table doing that staffing, and you're going to have the understanding. And of course you cried like a baby, but it was okay, because this is reality. Your baby's not coming home with you. Even if you got the bed, the blanket, all that look good, but reality is, you're still off for child abuse and neglect, and we have to make sure that everything's safe, because we have an obligation as well. So when she went to the staffing, after the worker let her know she was going to have the baby back, and they let her know she wasn't going to have the baby back, everybody like they was waiting on her reaction. And she sat there and said, I understand, it makes sense. I just learned this in a one-on-one session with my advocate, and I truly understand your position. And I think she blew their mind, because if you're prepared for something, it's better on you. I didn't want her to relapse. She came a long way. And so even today, it's been 15 years ago, all her kids are grown, they're doing excellent. But that advocacy, and to this day, everybody I've advocated for, they still call me and their children call me. Because I tell them, we have to stay safe and we have to maintain relationships. It's not a one-time shot. Your case is over, goodbye. It's where they call me for life. If I change my number, I send them a blast email. Hey guys, I have a new number. Because one way to have a community is to stay together and work together. It's the best way for us to survive. Thank you so much.
Latasha Watts is an award-winning child welfare advocate, a speaker, and author of a very good book, I'm Not Broken, Just a Little Twisted. She has over 15 years experience in working with youth, professionals, and families in a variety of settings. I first met her at a wonderful conference that she has been conducting at Cleveland State University for foster care children each year, called the Purple Project. The Purple Project is a support and resource network dedicated to assisting foster children with maintaining stability and successfully transitioning out of the foster care system. Latasha is also the chief executive of Cummings, Watts & Associates, a child welfare consulting and professional training firm, which provides nationwide training to professionals, youths, and families with the purpose of building a strong balance of work and family and life. She serves as an independent living coordinator for Beachbrook, one of Ohio's leading behavioral health care centers. Latasha has received proclamations honoring her work from the Ohio Attorney General Mike DeWine and former Ohio Governor Ted Strickland. She has worked on multiple nationwide charity campaigns and has been featured in several magazines and textbooks.
That's me. Thanks for having me. Thank you so much. I always love the opportunity to get a chance to talk about foster care and talk about my story as much as I can. I'm always nervous. I don't care how many times I do it, I'm always nervous. So I always start off thinking about things throughout the day. And I always come, for some reason, every time before I get ready to speak, I have a song in my head and it plays all day long. So I've been listening to Billie Jean over and over again for the last 12 hours. So I'm finally glad to be speaking because it's gonna leave my head as soon as I'm done. But no, I actually like to start off talking about my story. Not for you to feel sorry for me, but to understand the path and the journey in which I've taken to get to where I am today. When I listen to people, when they read my bio, I have to sometimes say, man, is that really me? Because I can remember that little girl not even wanting to speak to somebody, or that little girl didn't talk to anyone and put all her writings and everything into a book. I can remember that little girl where the psychiatrist was saying, hey, she has two personalities. We're going to try to bring out the good personality instead of the bad personality. So I'm like, hey, that's that little girl right now. And she's nothing like what someone said I was going to be because I came from the foster care system. So I am blind in my left eye. I am burned over 35% of my body from the waist down. And I tell you this, I've had reconstructive surgery done on my teeth. I was thrown down a flight of stairs. I suffer from PTSD, OCD, ADHD, and I am still here. And that is what's important. All the things that happened to me, of course you don't want to happen to me, but I'm going to tell you, and I tell you not to feel sorry for me, I wouldn't change it for anything in the world because I wouldn't be the person that's standing here today. So while I'm in the foster care system, I live in about 4 homes. So I didn't live in a variety of homes. I lived in some good and some bad. So I only remember 2 homes because I've been in care for 18 years. I was in care for 18 years. Came in as an infant and eventually aged out of the system because I was labeled unadoptable. So when I was in these 4 homes, the last 2 I remember, the first home that I do remember, I don't remember being a foster kid, because she didn't treat me anything different. I didn't know about social workers. I know people were picking me up, but to me, it was the people in the home. It was family members, friends. I had no clue. No one said foster sister, foster daughter. It was my daughter, my sister. So I never recognized that. I lived there for about 9 years. And then around somewhere close to my 10th birthday, my foster mom moved away, stopped cashing the stipend checks, didn't tell county where she was for an entire year. So when I moved, I was alone. I was washing clothes by myself. She was forgetting that I even existed because she was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's disease. So she didn't know that I was even existing on some days. So what happened was, the school in which I was barely attending reported abuse and neglect, and that's how I was rediscovered from county. So not that they didn't look for me, but just back then they couldn't find me. So when I moved to the new home, it was culturally different. I learned very quickly that I was a foster kid. Now mind you, when I was moved, I did not know why I was being moved. No one told me that my mom was sick at the time. Nothing. I just was packed up, moved immediately to a new family. I learned I was a foster kid. The husband in the family was a pedophile, so he was molesting all of the foster kids that was in the home, including me. So this is what I moved to. So eventually I turned 18. And when I aged out of foster care, I was so happy. I know if all of you got kids, my daughter is in the room right now. Right, Ashley, there she is, right there. So she's 19 now. So when I was 18 and I'm like, I can't wait to get out of here so I can live by my own rules and everything. That wasn't the case. When I turned 18, they said, okay, goodbye, bye-bye, you're on your own. I instantly was plummeted into homelessness. I became a single mom. You can wave again, Ashley. There she is right there. So instantly became a single mom. And I was on my own. I didn't know how to pay bills. I didn't know how to fend for myself. I didn't know how to eat. I didn't know how to cook. I didn't know what was nutrition. So I was pretty much on my own. And right after, when I thought I had that glimpse, a glimmer of hope of things being better for me, I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. And at that point, I thought not only would I die, but that my daughter, who I was struggling to raise, would end up right in foster care. So at that point in time in my life, I decided to turn my life around. When I was getting treatment for thyroid, I had thyroid cancer, by the way, they accidentally paralyzed both vocal cords during surgery. Only one works now. So I'm even grateful to be speaking. And when that vocal cord was paralyzed, it took me 13 weeks to learn how to speak, sit up, breathe, and eat. And with that, I said, well, my goodness, if I have to learn how to do all of that, I can learn how to restart my life all over again. And I did. And that's when I decided that I was going to latch onto my community, find anything that I can latch onto to help me survive. So if I had to go and get public assistance, I had the sunglasses on and a baseball cap, but I was going to go apply. And I needed it, and that was the thing. And I had to take away the embarrassment of needing services to be able to continue to survive. So once I got on my feet, I started the program. But what I noticed was, it was so many kids out here that was struggling with aging out of foster care, becoming homeless. And I'm thinking, I aged out. You always want to find out my age right now, but I aged out about 25 years ago. So within 25 years, the system has not changed. 25 years. We got internet, Google, Amazon, but you couldn't figure out how to make kids aging out of foster care not become homeless. Guess where the kids are going when they age out of foster care? CMHA. Majority of the kids are ending up in shelters or they're ending up in the projects. You are taking kids that was systematically put in a system, and now you're taking them out and putting them back in some of the same conditions in which you removed them from. So this is happening not only here, but across our country. So 18, you're telling a kid, goodbye, go take care of yourself. I love you to death, my daughter in the back, but she's 19, and I know that she is going to need me much longer than past 18. She's 19 now, but so the need is there, and I'm sorry, I probably did not go over time. I hope I didn't. So here's one quote that really, and I'm sorry, I'm a cheater like you, Stacey. I gotta have a little bit of notes. So here's one quote that reminds me of when kids age out of foster care and they need the services and support. This is one of my favorite quotes. We have continually been jumped off cliffs and developing our own wings on the way down. That is what a lot of the system does. They'll tell you we got programs and we have this and we have that, and they do. But in 25 years, they haven't gotten it right. So something has to change, and it takes people like you to come and say, enough is enough. We need to support this. We need to fix this problem some kind of way. And one other quote before I leave, before I pass it over to Kathy. And this is for you. I do got one more thing too. We don't have to engage in grand heroic actions to participate in the process of change. Small acts, when multiplied by millions of people, can transform the world. Sometimes it's the smallest things. I get phone calls from people saying, can you buy me a sandwich? And I will buy a sandwich for that person, and it changes their whole perspective, not only for that day, but sometimes for that week. And it makes them have hope. The smallest things, kids going to college and needing books, that don't have the support of their family. You know, you buy the book, they're happy. Guess what? They're going to pass that class because now they're able to keep up with their peers. The other thing I want to say was one last thing, and then that's it, is people make the mistake of thinking when you're in foster care and you become an adult and you're in your 20s and your 30s and your 40s that you've overcame it and you're good. It's not true. If you haven't had a good foster home or a good placement and you're now out on your own, you suffer greater sometimes when you're an adult because the expectations are much higher. So we sometimes are isolated. We sometimes don't know how to make friends. They laugh at me. They was like, oh, you only got about 4 friends. And, you know, and I'm okay with that. But my point is, we still suffer. We suffer with trust. We suffer with seeing, you know, life. We see life differently. We may be 30, 40, but sometimes that 30-year-old is really 20. And sometimes that 40-year-old is really 30. Because mentally, we weren't in the same environment that we could to survive. So anyway, I'm done. Thank you so much for listening to me.
There are some people who are looking at this issue. Republican State Representatives Dorothy Blanda and Cheryl Grossman were the primary sponsors of the new bill, House Bill 50, which passed in the House with bipartisan support and would expand by 2017 foster care assistance for emancipated youths up to age 21, as long as the youths are in school, in training, or employed at least 80 hours per month, unless they're incapable of doing any of the above. House Bill 50 is now in the Ohio Senate Finance Committee, and I would ask that after you have acquainted yourself with the legislation, that perhaps you might want to encourage your state senators to vote for it. I'd also like to include a few more requests. If there is anyone here who may know of a property that would accept young people between the ages of 18 and 21 who cannot show 2.5 times income to rent ratios, but would be in a suitable environment, we certainly would like to know about that. We have youngsters who, I call them youngsters, young adults, who need to find housing. And we'd like to connect them with that housing. And we have a sign-up sheet in the back if you can assist us in that way, or with furnishings for apartments. Again, these are young people who are emancipating into the world without housing and also without the things that would go into a house. So if you can find it in your hearts and persons to assist with that, that would certainly help. I guess now we can take some questions.
Natasha, would you please tell us about the Purple Project?
I'm going to try to run back and forth here with questions so you can all be heard and back to the
The Purple Project is an organization that I started back in 2009. Watching how I struggled when I came out of care with not knowing how to do things or just not having that supportive family. What I didn't tell you was I actually did attempt to go to college at one point, and when I did, it was just for a roof over my head and food in my house. I mean, food in my mouth, but not the academics. And when I got kicked out of college because of that, I ended up running into siblings and seeing that their lives were just as bad as mine. And I said, how could this be? Of course, I blamed my foster parent. Then I did more research and saw that this was happening not only in Ohio, but across the country. So I built the Purple Project as a resource and support network to assist youth that are in the foster care system. It originally started out as a resource directory only, and the first person logged on to the site was from Atlanta. So that let me know that I needed to widen my support, for the youth. So now what the Purple Project is a support and resource network with programming. We do transportation passes, we do military packages, because we have our kids that go to the military that don't have families, so they're not getting packages. Care packages, first and second semester. We do landlord, which I was telling Kathy, landlord search and connect, which means that if you know someone that has housing that is willing to rent to an 18-year-old, we come in, we talk to you about the population of kids, and we try to, let you know, hey, we're gonna help this kid stay in your apartment or your house or however, long, until they get on their feet or forever, perhaps. So we help with a lot of things. One of the things that we also do is we do 2 conferences a year. The first one is a teen summit. It's called the Next Generation of Foster Care, and that is for ages 10 to 14, because I'm a true believer, and if you get the kids very young and you educate them on what is to come, they will be prepared when it's here. Most people don't get independent living, which is like money management, budgeting, the whole how to cook, things like that, until they are about 15 years old, or they age out in 3 years. I mean, it took me, a good year or 2 before I could learn how to make Chilean spaghetti real good. So the Purple Project does that. That's coming up March 29th. We also have our annual Foster Care Youth Conference, which we get kids from all over the state of Ohio, including across the nation. We all come to Cleveland State. They stay either on campus or at the Marriott, which is our host hotel. They get 2 days full of nothing but classes, guest celebrity speakers, and they learn and get a camaraderie of, hey, I'm not alone, and they connect with each other and they stay in contact with each other. So we do that as well. Yeah. Hope that answers.
By the way, Latasha, if you could give me that Chilean spaghetti thing before we leave, I want to take it home to my wife. I could probably use that. Who's got a question? We'll try to make sure everybody can be heard. Who's got a question?
My name is Stacy. Angry or anger, what's the difference between that and growing up? And I ask this because it seems like we have a generation of young people that are angry. You know what I mean? Like Lives Matter movement, they don't want to listen to nothing. So what's the difference between being angry when you're young and just growing out of it?
All right, so I'm going to answer this to the best of my ability and from my perspective. I think a lot of it is from kind of the ball being dropped on giving our culture identity. A lot of us, we don't have identity, and the children that matriculate through the foster care system don't have identity either. So when you walk around not knowing who you are, not kind of being poured into positively either, you're gonna be angry. Naturally, you're gonna be angry. And then the situations that you're in is gonna cause you to be angry too. A lot of these kids, you can look at their background, you're gonna see the families, types of homes they come from. And some of it's generational. So, you're dealing with generational curses. It just is what it is. And that anger, it continues.
When you say generational curses, is this because you've been born again, or you read scripture and that sort of settled you down?
No. I believe generational curses are very much real. It's called, the average person may call it patterns or cycles. And you may know it as only patterns and cycles, but it's generational. And it could be curses, because if it's not positive, then it has to be the opposite.
Did either of you want to address that at all? Or?
Did you?
I would say that when we say generational curses, it just means that somebody didn't break a cycle that kept going on. Somebody has to make a change in the pattern that keeps going. I always tell my kids, same pattern, same routine, where you will always get the same results. Somebody has to make a change to do something different. And a lot of times, like kids, I meet a kid that was born or raised in a projects, and the whole family lives in the projects. Nobody moves away from that level of comfort because somebody's scared to step outside the box. And then somebody finally will say, I want to make change because I didn't like it here. I want something different. And they will go ahead and change the pattern of the family. Even though you get hit hard when you make changes, family don't understand that you're changing, why you want to go to suburbs, why you not comfortable. But somebody just has to make that change.
I'm agreeing with both of them totally, but I also come with another perspective. The times have changed so much. When I was growing up, of course, there was no internet. There was none of the stuff that they have now. Our kids had to learn, like I had to learn, go to the library if I wanted to know any type of education about my body, about hygiene. If I didn't get it at home, I had to go to the library or it was taught in school. These kids, all they have to do is Google. And if they Google it, sometimes they think it's right and it's real. And if you don't have that person to tell them that it's different or that it's wrong, they're going to band together and say this is what it is, despite of what the facts are, because there's nobody there now to teach them the facts. So you have that problem as well.
Matthew, did you want to do anything? We have your mic. Who else has a question in the back?
How much of the problem are the problems with foster care, the children falling through the cracks and all of that, is due to lack of or ineffectiveness of our public social services?
While I get there, you guys can decide who's going to answer this one. Okay.
It's lack of. So here's what I'm trying to give a best example because this is a good question. Here's what it is. You'll have something in place that is not working. So I'm gonna give you a perfect example, which a lot of people don't realize this. Independent living in Cuyahoga County has now changed. They used to now, and this is recent change in the last couple of months. Independent living used to be the kids go to a class with an instructor that teaches them cooking, money management, budgeting, whatever. Now recently they decided, hey, we're not gonna focus on that anymore. We either want the private agencies to do it or we're gonna outsource it now to some of the community organizations, or most importantly, we want normalcy, so we want the foster parents to make sure they teach it. How is that going to help the kid? Because there's no structure there now, there's no overseer, and there's no stability. So a lot of things to me with the services and they'll put it in place, but how it's being overseen and oversaw and monitored is not correct to me. So I hope that answered my part of the question. So.
I think one thing is too that it could be 50 programs out there, but we have to recognize too when they're not working. The kids are the result of that. I tell kids anytime I do a workshop or something, I ask them, let's talk about it. Did you learn from it? Did you not learn from it? What could be better? And I think those evaluations with talking to the people that are in the services will help us build the service better, rather than people sitting at the table coming up with ideas for kids and they ain't never been through the system. So we have to talk to the kids that's been through the system to find out how do we make the system better. Because a lot of kids, when they leave their home and go to foster care, you expect them to get treated better. I don't expect to go visit my kids and they're being sexually abused. They could have did that at home. So somehow we're not monitoring the way we need to. We're just shoving these kids around, and that's not fair to them.
But I don't need the mic. But how do we get rid of the programs that don't work?
And that's still based on the feedback from those children. That's still based back on us working with those agencies, because we can change anything we want to. We have the power to change any program, anything we want. We county executive, he's over the county. If it's not working and the kids are telling us it's not working, then it's time for us to bomb his door down. If they have indicated it, this is a problem, we're not learning, we're not being taught, they just passing the money around, but we're not benefiting from it. So it comes a time where we have to step up and say, we have to have this change come. And that's how we change it. We change it through the administrators. We get a bug in their ear.
So let me ask you, let me throw a question at the audience really quickly. When a kid leaves foster care, how many days do you think, unless this changed in the last 60 days, how many days do you think a worker has to put together what they call a transitional plan before they leave care?
Less than 30.
It should be before they
Before they leave care, they put in a transitional plan and they have 90 days to get that plan in place and activated before they leave. So think about this. A kid's been in care for 10 years. You really can wait 90 days to figure it out. And they'll talk about it, because I'm working in the system, so they'll talk about, hey, guess what? You know, this kid is about to turn 18 in April of next year, so we're going to have to get on the ball. But then the ball just constantly keeps rolling and rolling and rolling, but then it'll stop. And then it stays idle. And then that ball is sat there until almost 6 months before the kid gets ready to leave care, and they have to figure out everything, housing, where they're going to stay, making that connection. So they're trying to work on changing that, but so far, what I've seen is stayed the same, and I've been dealing with it for a while.
Are they overworked, or there's just no accountability, so they don't get it done?
I say both. Because you have some very good workers out there that are working really hard and working late hours, and some of them are overworked and underpaid. And, you know, I remember, even though when I'm doing case management for some of my clients, I remember being up at like 10 and 11 o'clock at night, still working. Workers go home at 4:30. So I had to make myself finally find some type of happy mediums, cutoff point for myself, you know, to make sure this kid gets what they get. So me personally, I think it's a little bit of both. I don't know about what you ladies think. Because I can talk. I had a mic all night, so.
I can talk too. I can talk. But I guess, does anyone have any more questions?
I know that's his job.
We're gonna move on.
I don't know if we're going to be able to get to them all, Bev, because I see we're
One more question.
yeah, we're in a bit of a time budget here. So
Just have a simple, what's the population of foster children in Cuyahoga County?
question is the population of foster kids in Cuyahoga County right now. Anybody have an idea?
I didn't bring those statistics. I'm sorry, I didn't bring those statistics.
They're like
About
in order of 10.
I would like to ask one final question here, not just because I can't pick one person from the 20 hands that just came up there, but Stacey, I kind of want to direct it to you because I was so impressed by your statement. You said, I don't see myself as a victim, I'm a survivor, and it is so huge. It's easy for us to look at kids who come out of that system in the way that they do, and our hearts break for them, and we see them as victims, but we don't want them living their lives like that, excusing every trouble they have with the rest of their life with, well, I had this bad upbringing and this bad experience. How do you get kids to see things the way you did? I'm not a victim, I'm a survivor. I got through that, and I'm gonna tackle the rest of my life the same way you did.
Okay. I think what we first have to do is we have to have, I know everything, it just seems programming, having programs in place. But we need a place where we can kind of mentor these kids. I think mentorship is so effective. I have a mentor. Mentorship is so effective. If we can get them into some mentoring programs and really have them deal with these issues, not sweep them under the rug, not suppress them, but bring the problem, the issue they're having on the table, and where do we go from here? But how do we embrace it and turn it and make it work for our good? And that's really what I did. And that comes with time. You are going to have to put time in order to change mentality and mindset. But it is very much possible. But again, you're going to need the support of people. They're going to need the support. And it's time. It's time. But it can happen. We're evidence. It can happen. And you can change, and if you can get them to believe in themselves, man, you have someone that can do great things for the community, for the world. It can just go so far. You just got to ignite that passion. Each of us have it. You just got to be able to ignite it, and it comes with time.
I think I can speak for the room and say this panel up here Stacy and Doreen and Latasha and Catherine, extraordinary women doing extraordinary things. Let's all give them a big round of applause. Before you adjourn from that table, I know that Bev has some gifts she'd like to present.
The first thing I'd like to ask you ladies is, would you each sit at a different table so that when we have dinner together, you'll be able to meet the families who are here. I had a lot of things I wanted to talk about, and we started late, and so I'm not going to talk long. I want to make a really, really, really important point about running for Congress in the 11th District. My opponent, Marcia Fudge, goes to work in Washington, D.C., and from the little that I have been able to gain from all the little programs, I've been trying to go to programs every week. I met all 4 of these women within a week in 4 different places, with the same message. I met Catherine at a ward leader meeting. I met Doreen and Stacy at a debate watch party. And then they took me to meet Latasha at where she works. What we think about and we worry about at our conservative meetings in the suburbs, and what our people who live not 2, 3, 4, 5 miles away from us are thinking about and worrying about, our lives aren't intersecting at all. They are not intersecting at all in my candidacy. And there's not a role for the federal government in every little thing. But if the person standing for the position in the federal government really brings forth the voices and brings people together, Catherine also mentioned, in addition to all the other things I worried about before, but I have a few things to give our friends here. These are little plaques, and they just say, friendships bloom. So I think that I hope you help me be a better candidate, and I help you really bring the messages forward that you need. But there's a couple more things, and that is, thanks. I don't know if you can use a calendar, but I got that at Martin Luther King Day, and I kept thinking about you, Stacey, so you get my calendar.
Hold it up so we can see it.
But Latasha, we have a very special project, gift for my family to the Purple Project, and I want you to hang this up somewhere where people walk in the door at the launch house. And this is our daughter Allison, who's sitting over there. She waited in line 3 hours a few years ago to get signatures on this Tuskegee Airmen poster. And if these aren't people who are the people we need to follow.
Thank you.
So that's for my family.
I just got a little thing. I know I'm gonna have to really take a picture and send this to one of my friends. Her father, one of my very best friends, her great-grandfather was a Tuskegee Airman. So she's gonna be so happy when she sees this. Thank you so much.
Okay, and I'm gonna want to get a picture with the 4 of you and anybody else here who wants to do that. Let's take a serious look at dinner. There is, so, and then I'm going to have Bob announce our sponsors real quick. But our dinner is served in this room. Our ladies are going to sit around so we can talk to them and ask the questions we didn't get to ask. And then about 5 or 10 till 8, our leader here, Daniel Ramada, is going to take us into our seating in the other room, and we'll get our music program. So this started out to be very serious, very important for us to do, and now we're going to enjoy our meal together. I appreciate everybody who came tonight. It was very important to me, so I really appreciate that you're here. Bob, would you announce our sponsors, and then we'll eat?
I certainly will. First of all, I didn't introduce myself when I took the mic this evening. I apologize. My name is Bob France. with WHK Radio, AM 1420, The Answer. I met Bev and Dan at the same time, actually, about a year ago, shortly after I started that program, my radio program, and we met to talk about a number of things involved with Act for America. And I can honestly tell you, when she asked me if I would help her in any way in this campaign, I told her I would, because she has been working her tail off for many more years than I've known her. But in just the year that I have, she is trying to make changes, not because she wasn't running for office when I met her. She's doing things because she sincerely wants to help people in this community and in this country, and actually beyond that. So I'm very, very happy to be here for you, Bev. And I know everyone else is too. We'd like to thank the campaign sponsors who are here at the campaign propulsion level. Michael Canty, who is the former mayor of Bentleyville and also the owner of Alloy Bellows in Highland Heights. Thank you so much to Michael. I have not met yet Michael, so I don't know where to look. Is he not here?
Although he thought he would be here.
Okay, good. Michael Canty. Campaign sustainers, Sue and Mickey Greenberg from Beechwood. Are Sue and Mickey here?
No,
okay.
It was still Sabbath, so they couldn't.
Thank you so much. And then campaign providers of life, thank you so much to Mikhail Alterman. Thank you to Sam Horowitz, Leslie Shane Cohn. Please give a wave if those who are here. Thank you to Mary Lou Bennett, Carol Ann and Martin Cohen from Gates Mills, and we're not here, and Pat and Ed Douglas of Chardon, I don't think who are here either. So just a great big thank you, obviously, from Bev and from Michael and from the campaign and for all of your support and hopefully everything that we can do to support Bev over the course of the next several months in this campaign. So with that, since Michael is not here, we won't have any keynote remarks in that regard. We can just go ahead and get ready for dinner.
I want to make just a couple of more announcements. Leslie Cohn has really helped me put myself together, and you all know that's a very hard task. So I really want to consider her a very special sponsor for tonight. She's been a real behind the scenes, real campaign cheerleader for me. Michael Canty has come on to our campaign as the senior financial advisor, and he has agreed to remain with the campaign all the way through Election Day. That is huge for me because Michael is a rock star in the National Small Business Administration. He's won awards. He's one of the nicest people in our Republican Party, and I couldn't have a better partner. We've met twice and we're already meeting again this coming week, so I just want to highlight how wonderful that is. And I want to tell you that 2 of my children came tonight, which I was very happy about, and I'm very happy that they're here. And my husband. You cannot have a better husband than Michael Goldstein, so I want to thank you. And we have another really special person here, Julie Kirk from the Republican Party of Cuyahoga County. Julie has no idea how much she will be helping me in the future. But there is no person that we have interacted with at the party who's such an easy, gentle, and effective person. So we're very lucky to have Julie. Okay. Oh, my partner around Ohio, Daniel Amata. We are going to save America, me and Daniel, along with everybody in this room. And Chris as well. Okay, and Mr. France, you are the best. All right, dinner.